Elijah, thanks for being here, man. I'm really excited. This is going to be a great episode. I have 1,000,001 questions that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I think where I want to start is, what is one thing that is exciting you currently?
Exciting me right now, life for sure, but specifically project related. My motivation concert I'm working towards, just giving people a great way to start off the new year. Can't wait to bring this new experience to people. It's just going to be something new and exciting, and a good way to fuel dreams. That's what I'm all about. So it keeps me up at night for sure, but it's that fire that I don't really need my alarm clock. It's funny, this week I've been waking up ahead of my alarm clock, which is new because I only used to do that before when I was working out early in the morning, right? Like 5 a.m. I'm no longer a 5 a.m. gym guy.
No longer in the 5 a.m. club?
I'm in the 5 a.m. club, but not in the gym.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
I
man.
see you.
Key difference. Okay, so the gym, I can only do the morning, like, workout for cardio. But when it comes to weights and stuff like that, it's definitely got to be an evening thing. I'm a good night owl for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you already said some things that I'm sure people are curious about. What is a motivation concert?
Yeah, great question. It's a new experience to fuel your dreams. So really there's a few different elements. One is live performances, motivation challenges, and then community building, right? So if you can imagine the perfect blend of creative artistry and motivation in a live experience where people are coming together to feed off of that positive energy and just really to grow the community once you're working towards something, because oftentimes it can be a small circle, to bring that to people all over. We're going to start in English and go to Spanish and all these other different languages and cultures.
How far out are we on this coming to fruition?
Yeah, it's January 4th. That's the first date. So it got pushed out just a little bit just for logistic reasons, but this is going to work out for the best just because, like, we're going to have everything fine-tuned now. But yeah, I just can't wait. It's one of those big opportunities that I've been working for. You know, it's funny, like, as I was growing through my life, like, there's all type of opportunities and stuff I could have reached for. But one day I just opened up a new note on my phone that said "True to Me." And the big question was, like, if I could be true to me, what would happen? And this started manifesting, like, pretty effortlessly. And the momentum is just built and built and built. And now it's all polished. The quality's there. Now it's just about reach, which is why I'm so grateful for being here today, because, you know, I get to reach a new audience and share what I'm doing with a lot of people.
Yeah, and I want to give you a moment to let the audience know more about you, who you are, a little bit of your background. But I love that question you asked yourself. True to me, what would my life be like if I lived it true to me?
Yeah. Okay, well, where do I start? Like, just who I am? Okay, so I was born a twin. That's a great place to start. I was born a twin of teenage parents. Huge part of my identity because I was always a we rather than just a me. So I never really had just that me mindset. It was always like, what can happen for us? Because I'm the older twin, oldest of 4 siblings, actually. But I think the reality is I'm a dreamer.
That's why we get along so well.
Yeah, you know, but yeah, of course, a natural fit to be on the Dare to Dream podcast. But I think the dreamer in me has always just been like a stubborn dreamer, you know, because I'm such a believer in my dream that I took it so seriously, where it was like not just, oh yeah, just dream just because it's the class assignment, you know, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm such a, like, I don't care what the world says, I can do this kind of guy, you know? So I think it's gonna work out for me because I've never learned how to quit. And I think that just serves me so well. Like, I look at all the things I've done, all the projects I've completed, and it's just a matter of, like, wow, like, I just wake up and show up, you know? I forget the quote about, like, half of it is showing up or 80% or whatever, but that's really how I live my life. And I think the best part about being a dreamer is that I don't really see possibility. I just see expectation. Like, I expect it rather than possibilities, kind of like I hope for it. Like, oh, it's possible. No, I expect this to happen. I just work for it until it gets to manifest in my life. So besides being a dreamer, I am a doer. I'm a big thinker for sure, but I'm a doer. Like, I don't really think without doing. I think it's most important because it, like, grows your thoughts to do something about them. So that's, like, a big part of my identity. What else can I say? I was like kind of like a cool guy in school, if you will, like a pretty popular guy, but I never let it go to my head. I was just pretty popular because I was always interested in people. So I want to learn about you. Like, you look so different than me. You are so different than me. Like, teach me about you. And that genuine curiosity just gained me a lot of friends. And so I ended up gaining a lot of influence and, you know, learning that that aspect of life. And then let's see, being the first generation college graduate, I was really driven to keep pursuing pushing the boundary, right? Pioneering a new venture of like, what can my possibilities, or what can my abilities open for my family, right? Somebody's like coming up after me, my younger cousins or whatnot. They might think their world is so small, but for me to keep pushing those boundaries opens it up. And even on to like one day when I have kids and all that good stuff, just want to keep their world so much bigger than mine was, because I had this huge imagination that wasn't always matched by actionability, because it was like, I don't know, I remember one day I asked my dad why the sky is blue, and the internet was kind of new, and he had to like Google it and come back home with like a printout, and he's like, oh yeah, the reflection of the ocean and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think that's a good general gist of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to ask about confidence. I want to ask where this, instead of possibility, expectation comes from. But before I do, I'll sprinkle in just 2 more nuggets for the people listening. You have written a book, so you're an author.
Yeah.
And you've also been a keynote speaker.
Yeah, thank you. My book, Close Your Eyes and Look, started as a challenge, if you will. I directly out of college started as a real estate agent, residential agent. And it was just a buddy of mine. We were graduating same university, San Jose State, and he got started, but he had graduated with his international business degree, whereas I was global studies. And so just the interest in language, we're like, let's do this. We can relate with people and sell these big deals, So I joined an office, Los Gatos. It was the #1 Coldwell Banker office in North America, like top producing, so full of all these top producers. And I was having lunch with a gentleman one day, and he just challenged me like, we keep talking like this, you're going to end up writing a book. I was like, don't challenge me. Before you know it, it'll be done. Next thing he's like, well, let's see a chapter and go from there. So I went home and wrote 1 sentence, first sentence of my book, and that was it. I couldn't come up with anything else. Then the next day, an influx of words, like this huge download of information. I had like pages and pages and pages. And then when it was done, it was done. And before you knew it, we'd keep meeting, and I would just share my updates. Before you know it, I had a book. And yeah, it's the story about a dreamer, funny enough, right? But how to journey within, because oftentimes people get lost within that journey, and it's tough because it's a really infinite space, the world within us. So in this book, a dreamer journeys within to meet different parts of himself who show him how to turn his dreams into reality. And keynote speaking, yeah, that was fun, but it was like the tip of the iceberg, I had somebody recommend it, like, Elijah, you would be so great at this. This would be so cool for you. And the funny thing is, it's funny you mentioned this is right before I did the True to Me note in my phone. I would report back to them on the progress of that venture. Like, oh, here's what I did. I spoke at this. I got paid for this. I got featured on this. Like, the steps, the incremental progress. And one day I came home and was like, there's got to be more to this than reporting to somebody who thought, oh, I could do this or that or the other. I was like, what am I reporting to myself? So then here comes the note. If I'm true to me and I'm standing in the mirror reporting for duty, like, what do I say as what I've done? And that's where it came to. Yeah, it was fun.
That's a really interesting thing you just brought up. And it's actually something that's been showing up in my world recently. I've been having conversations around it. You can go through your whole life getting praise, getting pats on the back, providing progress updates to other people on things that are more important to them than they are to you.
Right.
So taking that moment to say, wait, hold on a minute. What is true to me, and how do I give myself pats on the back and progress reports for things that actually matter to me?
Yeah. I mean, well said. It's like giving yourself to yourself, right? Oftentimes we're so quick to give ourselves to our jobs, to our money, responsibilities, to our family. Like, when you give yourself to yourself, are you really accessing it? Or are you just how do I say, like, bearing the brunt of it, right? Like, some of us, we just get in our space and we're just social media scrolling, right? But that's kind of just enduring yourself rather than really releasing that true gift of whatever life can offer you, like, say yes to yourself. I can't look back on that moment. It's been the best day ever. Like, it's really ingrained in my head. Like, like some people remember when they hit rock bottom. I'll always remember the day I said yes to myself, for sure. Because it's like, I'm hoping this momentum takes me, to infinity and beyond, to quote Buzz Lightyear. But so far so great. Like, I've met no resistance on this path. And I feel like, some people say like take the path of least resistance. That's cool. But in my experience, it's been the path of most allowance. Like, the path of least resistance addresses how much resistance there is in your world and just tries to go off of like where the least of it is. And the path of most allowance just shows you all the open doors and encourages you just to run through them all. And that's why I'm here now.
I love that so much. So we need to go to confidence for a moment. Where did this confidence come from? Because I meet some people, and they have this confidence about them, but it feels really manufactured. It feels really fake.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment I met you, your confidence feels unassuming. It feels like a stated fact. Like there's nothing to question about it. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be great. It's going to go well.
Thank you.
Where did that come from? And how do you cultivate that?
First of all, I'm humbled by your compliment. So thank you for that. It really means a lot. But I think there are two answers, right? The easy answer is I know who I'm not. The deeper answer is I envision who I expect myself to be and learn from him. So to go like beyond the layer, right? First, I know who I'm not. I spent a lot of time, as do a lot of us young people, like figuring out life. Like, okay, let me just try this, try that, like learn here, learn there. And what do you get out of it? You maybe don't get the ultimate, like, who do you want to be when you grow up kind of answer to your life. But you definitely know, like, oh, that's not it for me. That's not it for me. So trying so many things, like I learned a lot. Like I built up this arsenal of, Elijah, you're not this, you're not this, you're not this, right? And then that confidence kind of narrowed my vision, right? Because I know with a certain level of certainty that I'm not these different ways and people who I tried to be, right? Like I tried to put on different outfits, costumes of like, oh, this guy looks cool. Like, let me try and be like him. Like that guy looks cool. This person looks amazing. Like, and try on that sleeve or that shoe or whatever, pant leg. And without a freaking doubt, I know like these shoes are not my style, like this hat is not my vibe, and that confidence translates to, well, if I'm not that, then I must be this. So for example, I had a 1.0 semester in junior college when I dropped out of university to pursue my dad's dream for me to be a football star. Mm-hmm. And that semester taught me so much. That semester when I had 2 D's, a F, and a pass, was like, wow, Elijah, this is not me, And that confidence says, okay, well, if I'm not a failing student, I must be a A student. Like I must be a scholar. And then next thing you know, I graduated as a dean scholar once I transferred to my new university, right? So imagine that magnified over so many umpteen experiences, and that's really me coming into my own of I know who I am. And then the next layer of I have a very clear vision of who I can be, right? And I learn from this being as much as I can in my meditative state, because just think about it. I'm already him, but I'm just not living those days and ways right now, but I can get better and better. And I just source my confidence from him. Like I'm him, or so in retrospect, it could be, I can be that person, but I'm more like, instead of I can be, I am, right? Because I can be was more like I want to be, aspirational. I am is more like I'm learning all the things that weren't that, so I can just embody it more fully.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the meditations because I want to ask about that.
Okay.
But I love this idea of what you're saying is that you had to essentially close the door on all of these different versions of Elijah. You try it out, you try it on, be like, that's not quite me. And then you try something else. Besides being a football star, which was your dad's dream, what are some of the other versions of yourself that you said no to?
Oh, man. Great question. Let's go through it. Okay, so let's see. All right. Let me just start back as early as possible. I remember rap was like a cool thing in my friend group. Like everybody was like, bust a freestyle, like hit this on this beat or whatever. I'm pretty terrible at that, but I tried it, like I always felt like I could flow and naturally have a rhythm to how I speak and how I am. But when I try and fit that mold, it just did not fit me at all. So I was okay, that's out, X that box. Aside from that, I also tried to be like the stereotypical cool guy, you know, if that makes sense. Like, so for example, I was popular and all that stuff, but there's a certain connotation with popularity. Like, you got to be a jerk. You got to kind of be like this person who's like superficial in a lot of respects. But I was more authentic in my curiosity. Like, I like people, you know? So I was like, I can't really be like one of those guys, you know, like the stereotypical cool guy. So let me just toss that out the window. I also tried to be, oh man, some of my more embarrassing days, I tried to be like okay, not that I wasn't a good athlete. It was just I got very clear nose. Like, this is not your way, right? The reason I say that is because I was pretty good at football, basketball, track, like typical. But my no for football was a dislocated kneecap in high school that made all the offers stop coming. Like, I was pretty heavily recruited because I had some good grades. So like all these Ivy League schools. The week before homecoming, dislocated my kneecap in that practice before a homecoming game. That was the first, like, Elijah, maybe this isn't you. Then I went to university where I had been recruited and just walked on the team. Didn't end up making it because I joined a fraternity instead and was just like prioritizing that over that. So I was like, maybe that's a second no. But then that wasn't enough for me. Dropped out of university to go to junior college because I played semi-pro on this team where it was like people drinking before the games and all this crazy stuff. And the coach there was like, hey, you could actually do something. Why don't you just come to this school and play and see if you can get an offer? So I went that route. The first year went completely defeated, 0-10. And that did not work out. So I didn't actually play during that year. Sat second string behind like the school hopeful. He had just had a kid. Everybody was like hoping he would get out. So it didn't work out, but I figured maybe it's for a reason. The second year when it was like my shot or whatever, I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus in my right knee. And that was like another, wake up call. Like, hey, Elijah, like try something else. So that athletic run fell short, and then tried to be the sales guy, like a sales. I just want to make a bunch of money. I just want to like just live in my mansion or whatever. And it wasn't that I'm not good at sales. It's just I have to be authentic in order to be that guy because I like to help people. That's why I wanted to just sell. But it came to like I'm just money driven and money hungry, trying to just close deals. And then I became a very inauthentic version of a helper, which is like didn't sit well with me. I mean, I could keep going for days, but I feel like that's probably enough of the imposter syndrome that builds up over the year.
I love that. Rapper Elijah, sales guy Elijah, cool guy Elijah,
yeah,
footballer. I think that's really resonating with me of one, that you actually had the courage and the audacity to go try and be those different people. I think it's really easy to get locked into one lane and tell yourself this is who I am, or have other people tell you this is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you were able to try on a bunch of these different identities and decide that they didn't fit, I think answers my own question of how you were able to find out who you actually are and what is true to you. So I love that piece. I want to come back to the meditations where you speak with your higher self, your best self, your future self.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of Matthew McConaughey and that epic, I think it was a Oscar speech he gave, where his hero is him 10 years in the future. He's the one who he's chasing. So what does the meditation look like? Does your best self talk back to you? You mentioned he does.
Yeah, 100%. So don't tell anybody I told you, except for everybody listening to the podcast. No, but honestly, so I call him Mr. Heart, like following my own heart, which follows the definition of my book, right? Because the main character follows his heart and gets introduced to all these different pieces or parts of himself. But when I follow my heart, Mr. Heart, he teaches me everything. I mean, any and anything I want to know about. Like, that's what I'm here for. I want to live that life. Like, what he's living is what I want to live. So when I'm like, okay, I'm here, how did I do kind of thing? It's more of it's not really like a language, like we're speaking back and forth. It's more like a vision.
Ooh.
It's like, it's funny because like we'll joke back and forth, like he'll laugh like, oh, I remember, you must be here kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, of course, obviously, you know me, you're future me. But then I'll get like these picture snapshots of the next piece, right? So for example, a while ago, I was working toward, like, especially when I started this, right, the True to Me. I had just a note in my phone, and it was all breaking down the different components of like this aspect versus another, and they would have like subcomponents. And what I went through was like, hey, here's where I'm at. Like, how does this look? And like, what can I improve upon to get closer and closer to being you, kind of thing. And what it came down to was like, that picture was like, you don't have this yet, but you need that in order to get this, right? Like, you have to step on step 1 in order to reach step 2. And that's how I connect the dots and then wake up into my real life and then go after it. So it's really cool. But it's very easy for me. I mean, it works for me. I'm sure everyone's going to have their own different process. But like the other day, I was just working on something. And it's funny because like, if I don't do that, I get off track so easily, right? So for example, I'm trying to put together this like this one aspect of my business, right? And just keeping it like very high level of like, oh, I think this needs to be the result, and here's what other people do, and this gets other people results. But then I bring it back to like my future self, my Mr. Hart, and he's like, but that's not you. Like, what's you? Like, you know, I'm like, well, I'm good at this, I can do this. He's like, well, then use that. And it's like, oh, like, I don't know how it's so far away from that, but it's just such a true to myself core version of myself that always keeps me centered. And that's a big part of the confidence I source, because I'm never like too far from me.
There are 2 things I want to say to that. First, I feel so seen and heard because I'm very similar in that I am so easily excitable and impressionable that when I'm trying to build something out, I'm always like, oh, well, this person over here says to do it this way. But then there's this person over here who says the exact opposite. Like, which one is it? Maybe I'll try something in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then the right answer is always like what feels authentic to me. So it feels like you're really good at tapping into that intuition, that inner voice, Mr. Hart, and saying, okay, is this what we want? Is this us? I love that. And then you shared something that you said we can't tell anyone. So I'll share something that I haven't shared before.
Okay.
Which is my meditations where I have been able to communicate with my highest self or best self have been the most powerful ones I've ever had.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm growing my hair out is because I had this one meditation where I was looking at my best self in the mirror, and he had long hair. Okay. And I asked him, what do I need to do in order to become you? And he like reached through the mirror and grabbed me in a hug and said, you already are. And it was like this super powerful moment. And I was like, okay, I got to grow my hair out.
I love that.
So now we're rocking with it. So I want to go to challenges. You wrote your book because of a challenge. You've said the word challenge a few times, and I can tell that there's some energy and some excitement behind it.
Yeah.
What role do challenges and challenging yourself play in your life?
Well, to quantify my ultimate goal for my life, I want to be surreal. That's always been my goal since I was a kid, just because I fell in love with the vocabulary. Like, I was just really in love with letters. That's how I got into languages. And when I used to read the dictionary, like just read it, just curious, like what words are out there, you know?
And you said you were popular when you were younger? Yeah.
I know. Yeah. This was before that. This was like in elementary school, like I was really into the dictionary and stuff. And then in high school, I started like, but yeah, came across this word surreal. And for some reason, I just became infatuated by it. Like, wow, like, it's just wow. That's one of my things, like wowsome. It was wowsome in my life. It's not awesome. It was wowsome. Like, it just took me aback, right? And for whatever reason, I decided that's what I want to be. I want to be as close to perfect as possible, but realizing within a humble nature that I'll always be imperfect, right? So that surreal nature is my goal, like physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, everything. And then I start setting these astronomical goals, like blah, blah, blah. But then I start hitting some of them, like, whoa, like this is real. And then it speaks to the power of the mind, right? So, yeah, I think, sorry, I kind of got lost in my thought for a sec.
That's great. I want to ask a question about surreal. What does surreal mean to you? What is Elijah's definition?
Elijah's definition of surreal is as close to like so unbelievably possible that it questions the realm of possibility. Like, it's within scope, right? For example, bodybuilding. Like, these bodybuilders, they look like human beings from a different world, right? Like gladiator area type stuff.
They look surreal.
They look surreal. That's what I want to embody for everything, right? Like I'm blessed to have a surreal relationship with my high school sweetheart. Like married her, picked her up at a history class, social studies, if you will. So I have a surreal relationship, right? Surreal home and experience when I go back to my world. Surreal dream I'm working for. I'm not too far away from my physique goal, but I'm within striking distance, which is something my dad always says, like be within striking distance. It's funny though, because I always say, are you in striking distance if you never strike? Right?
It's a great question.
Right? And so my goal is to strike every time for everything. And so I'm just a few notches away, but that's what makes me so humble. Like I really am notching higher and higher to really like just check all the boxes. Like if it's possible, it's possible. I know they say you can't get everything you want, but I figure there's like a few different stages of wealth, right? There's like financial wealth, emotional wealth, physical wealth, and mental wealth, right? Mental wealth is happiness. Financial wealth is, you know, billions or trillions or whatever you define it as. Emotional wealth, like happy at home, true love. And then physical wealth, like health is wealth, right? So just trying to balance all four corners, because like I naturally started with the physical piece. Like my dad's a physical trainer. He learned how to be very fit, really ingrain all those habits within us. Check that. I didn't come from financial wealth, so I'm working for that, right? So building, like definitely hit a lot of notches that I didn't have from humble beginnings, but not at my ultimate level yet, right? But still, for all the other things, right, it's just like trying to be this well-rounded, robust human to leave a good legacy behind.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
And I want to keep going down the dream path because we have two dreamers getting together to talk about dreams.
Right.
What do you think is the biggest thing that gets in the way from people chasing their dreams?
This is a great question. I was just thinking about this recently, actually, and it might sound weird, but I think the biggest thing that gets in a lot of dreamers' way is thinking dreaming is just an exercise. Because oftentimes it's like a group thing that we do, right? Hey, everybody, we got this dream. Like, what's your dream? Oh, cool. And it's like almost like a transition. Like, oh, I did that, closed that chapter, I finished that assignment. But I take the mantra really seriously, like to dream seriously. To dream seriously means that you really embody it as a possibility, right? And I just take it one step further to make it an expectation, right? But I think a lot of people just accept it as, oh, that was fun. And then just do what everyone else does because it's easy, right? There's so many doors and ways people can help you do what they've done. But honestly, especially in our generation, right? A lot of people take their dreams a lot more seriously than the generations ahead of us. And unfortunately, even within that, I think a lot of us just stop showing up, you know? Because it's like, I've been there, done that. So just to think of it as like a phase or an assignment is like the saddest thing to see because, you know, especially like life happens, like you have kids, like, you know, you have all these assignments, you have all these responsibilities and work and all this other stuff that takes away your time. And then just like giving away your time before signing up for yourself, right? Like, got to sign my own autograph before I sign everyone else's. But sometimes we forget that stuff so we can get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, it seems like for you, dreaming is step one, and then it's okay, how do I take action on the dream? And then how do I turn that into an expectation? How do I ensure that it goes from this possibility to something that is going to happen? Whereas maybe other people, dreaming is an exercise. They dream, they think big, they think about it for a little bit, and then they get that dopamine hit and they're like, wow, that was great. Now let's get back to regular programming versus like, okay, what am I going to do about this to make it a reality?
Yeah. I mean, well said. Like, I think a lot of people get lost in from dream to memory, whereas it's in my book and yours as well, it goes from dream to goal, from goal to plan, from plan to operational tactics, right? Like, what did I get done for the day? Because the plan's like a little more grand at scope, but day to day you can notch it off, right?
And it's actually something I've been thinking about a lot because for so many people, they hear the word dream and it's fuzzy, it's aspirational, it's this pie in the sky. It's, I want to win the lottery, but I'm not going to buy a ticket.
Right.
Whereas the more people I meet who are entrepreneurs, who are dreamers, dream and goal and the biggest thing they're working on, they're all kind of synonymous. So how do you get people to take their dreams seriously?
Oh, you don't. I don't think you do. I think people just have to look. Funny enough, I think if you don't hit the ground in a certain way, you're not going to reach for it because it doesn't seem like you need to. I think those of us dreamers, and we've talked about this in the past, like you have that light bulb moment that makes you think, if I don't, what happens, right? Like, for example, the night I proposed to my wife and she became part of this dream, I was watching a movie called Best Man Holiday, where they're like all in this living room, like it's a bunch of old friends, and they're like singing all these like dances, like doing group dances, and it's like just choreographed, like they're like some boys group or whatever, and then the girls do the same thing. And I looked at my life like, if I didn't have this woman there in that moment in the future, I wouldn't be able to like stomach that, right? So that wake up moment was key for that version of my emotional wealth, right? I think a lot of us in many different respects don't hit that moment, so it's just like, I can live without it, right? For you, you mentioned you were in finance and had that like, what the heck type of realization, like, damn, I can't do this, right? Like, and I've hit my head on the ground a number of times where I realized, like, if I don't take control of my life, someone else will definitely capitalize on the potential that I have, and why give myself away to anyone but me first?
That is such a beautiful thing that we keep coming back to, is putting yourself first, but it's not in a selfish way. It's in a very authentic, powerful, empowered way. And what you're talking about right there is exactly, I think you hit the nail on the head. Things need to get bad enough to activate enough energy for you to escape. There's this thing I just learned about last week, put it in my newsletter. It's called the mediocrity trap. It's that you might actually be better off if your life got worse, because right now things are bad, but they're not that bad.
Yeah.
My job, I don't love it, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, at least I'm grateful I have a job. My relationship, man, we fight all the time. I don't really feel seen and heard, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And if things actually got worse, the pain would rise and you would have this energy to actually make a change. And it's a really interesting concept that's also brutally sad, because so many people are stuck in that mediocrity trap of just coasting through life, like in between bad and not that bad. They never get to really good and oh my goodness. They never get to wowsome. What did you say?
Wowsome. Yeah.
Wowsome.
Yeah. That's so well said, so articulately positioned, because I think if at all, to get to that point could condone a sense of helplessness, but that's kind of what you need to realize only you can save you, right? I've got this picture on my phone. It's me like when I'm like 10 years old and I'm like all contemplative, like in front of the pool, and I'm just like in this state of like envisioning almost. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to get stuck in this like very powerful like vision that I couldn't grasp, but just was so like controlling, just taking over me. And I also, like in my little home gym, I have a picture of me as like a kid, like me and my twin were like playing on this little like swing or whatever. But the reality is I draw so much strength from looking at that picture, because now I can, in retrospect, see I am the superhero to save that version of Elijah, right? And it just, like, just start turning on this power from, wow, like I would loved, and I think a lot of people, to your point, are kind of waiting to be saved in this, like, oh yeah, it's not that bad, but it could get better. And as soon as we face a lot of ourselves with an unfortunate reality that social media like kind of exacerbates, that a lot of us are inherently lazy, right? Human beings, right? Before you have a real fire, you're kind of like lazy by design. Society really makes a lot of things easier, right? A lot of innovations make things better, faster, cheaper, right? Which in essence makes them easier, which incentivizes our laziness. And then a lot of us really have this like mental block, if you will, that we expect everything for the least effort, right? And it's funny because I was the same guy. I was like, man, I just want it all, but I just want to click my finger and maybe hope for a genie out of a bottle, right? Because we fall in love with these fairy tales. But if at all possible, I honestly hope everybody hits rock bottom at least once in their life. Like, it's such a light bulb moment. And unfortunately, it does go one of two ways for people. But I think more than not, especially us dreamers, I've met a lot of us along the path, we all have that moment where we're like, dude, this was it. And it just changed everything, you know? And it's a real authentic moment of, let me wake up.
I love what you're saying so much. What I'm hearing it is that no one is coming to save you, and you need to become your own superhero
Yeah.
to save yourself. And something that I've reflected on in my journey is that when I worked in finance, I was sad, I was miserable, I was so mediocre. I was stuck in the mediocrity trap. And what I wanted to be was someone who was out there having experiences, following their dreams, in alignment with their heart, and living a story worth telling.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back, I see that I became the hero. I became the person I needed to be to save myself, save that little boy who all he wanted to do was go out and have a big dream. And it's really cool to reflect on that. And I honestly think that's how people get out is, like you said, rock bottom, welcome it with open arms. And from there, become your own hero, become the hero of your story and see what happens next. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. But it's also scary. You're like, we've done it now. Imagine how terrifying it was in those moments. You're like, oh my gosh, what's my life going to be? Like, how can I salvage these years? Like, and the crazy thing is you feel like by your 20s, you should figure it all out. Like, that's when it happened for me. I was in my early-ish to mid 20s, like 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is terrible. Like, what's my life going to be? And I'm like, dude, like, I'm supposed to be making mistakes, you know, like, it's okay. But we don't have that mentality because, like, a lot of the media presents this, like, picture of all these people who are, you know, early on successful. But the funny thing is, you look a few years later down the line, when they look back on all the things that they did that got them there, they're like, man, I just was in this space where, like, a lot of that energy that they found themselves in was exploited to present this image of the world, like, hey, this is it, you know. Like, I look at, like, for example, I mentioned I was in the rap community, like NBA YoungBoy and like artists like that, and like even NLE Choppa, like they have all these songs full of lyrics that perpetuate the worst of society, right? And then people listen to these lyrics and internalize these things and go out and do these things that are, you know, frowned upon. And the reality is they just find themselves lost enough and repeating mantra after mantra, affirmation after affirmation, not even realizing it all the times they sing these songs. And next thing you know, that becomes their world. And the crazy thing is it's so easy to be lost because there are so many people who are lost. So you can be lost within found within a lost community, which is like a loss. But it's so true because it's like, well, there's other people here. I'm not by myself, but they're just lost together.
That's something I've actually thought about a lot is two things. One, does the music you listen to impact you? Does it seep into your beliefs and who you are and what you think you're capable of?
Mm-hmm.
That's one question that I want you to answer. And then the second one is the artists who talk about the success and the fame and the accolades before they have it. Are they almost, in a sense, manifesting because they're projecting that into the world and acting as if it's true already?
First, yes, the music that we listen to does impact us because I think it's about what we feed ourselves, right? There's that analogy of the two wolves, right? One's like, which one do you starve? That's the one who doesn't make it, right? Kind of connotation. And oftentimes we feed in ample overload the ones that aren't the best for us, which is how we find ourselves lost. So I think music really adds to that because it's like repetition after repetition, message after message, just deepening its impact within our minds. And so, yeah, I think especially because like there's a certain agenda behind the scenes of what people want to grow, right? There's like, not everybody wants the best for everybody. Unfortunately, like we're some of the few who like try and bolster people's belief in themselves and like to help people be their best, right? Like that's key. But like even with your mantra, right, helping people get the things money can't buy, right? Like not everybody is that genuine, right? Not everybody's that good natured and like honest in the world. So it's funny because the people who aren't often wear the costumes that they are, you know, it's like kind of crazy to think, but it's just the reality. But your second question was,
do the artists who talk about having fame and money and success before they actually have it, does that help them get that? Are they almost manifesting it and bringing it closer because they're saying it, they're speaking it, they're yelling it, they're performing it over and over and over again?
I want to say yeah, but I think I'm inclined to say no, just because I think people get lost in, oh, the affirmations are going to do it for me, and then don't have the action to support it. So I think that's like kind of where people get lost. And I don't want to mislead anybody listening. Like, oh yeah, this is like kind of what you need to focus on and just envision it. And no, like that's why I say like the thoughts lead the actions, and the actions get you some metrics of like, you know, whatever KPIs you need to get to your goal. Key performance indicators, right? I need to take this step on day 1, this step on day 2, and as long as I'm performing these key steps, performing these key things, and I can indicate how close or far I am from my goal. So I think to answer your question a little more succinctly, it's the first step of a half step, right? Because the half step is I want to go in this direction. The full step is I go in this direction.
I take actions to go
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
direction.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I appreciate you answering these questions. I'm posing them to you like you're some expert on manifestation and the intersection of manifestation and music, but I appreciate you playing the game.
Yeah.
Where I want to go next is I feel like there's a lot of people, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who have the capacity to dream, who can become dreamers, but who are currently lost. I definitely identify as that. I wasn't, like it sounds like you were from a young age, contemplative, thinking about your vision and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That really hit me at a later age. It was honestly kind of when I got out of college.
Mm-hmm.
I took a look at my life and I was like, this is not the path I want to go down. And I realized that I could change myself faster than I could change the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got super into reading books and podcasts, listening to podcasts, and just doing some of the inner work.
Mm-hmm.
For the people who have the potential to become a dreamer, how do we shift them into being a dreamer? I'll stop there.
This is a heavy question, but it's a good one. And the reason why I say it's heavy is because I don't want people to look at my answer as like a one size fits all, or like I got this, like I know the answer. Is like, no, I'm just from my experience. But from my experience, what worked for me was realizing how lost everyone who thinks they're found is. And I was like, wow, like, you know, it's like the person in the club who's buying bottles, who's like got all the girls around them, who's just like living this superficial life, like almost like the Dan Bilzerian story. Have you heard of that guy?
Oh, yeah.
He just reflects now on all the lifestyle choices he made, and this the ideological world that a lot of people position them in, and how empty it can be. And it's like, I can't fill an empty pit, right? But a lot of the people who are lost together are trying, and they're just trying to fill this void that doesn't go anywhere. So, okay, so to better address your question, I think,
and this goes back to what you said earlier. Earlier, it sounded like you're either a dreamer or you're not. And I think that there's a lot of people in between.
mm-hmm.
And a follow-up question is, are these the kind of people that need to come to a motivation concert? Will that help turn the tide, shift the scales for them? Or is the motivation concert just for certified grade A dreamers?
No. The motivation concert is for anybody from I had a dream but just never knew what to do with it to I know how much closer I am by my dreams actions today, right? Especially for those who just dreamt and thought, oh yeah, I'm done. You know, I think it would be great because it reignites that passion. It gets you to say or consider, what if I said yes to myself, right? Because the ultimate goal when you come to a motivation concert is for you to walk away feeling like a masterpiece, like I'm it, you know. You have that fire lit, and then you can keep going, because maybe from the one concert to another, you might need to refuel, right? We say fuel America's dreams because you need to fill up. But if your confidence meter goes to 0, doubt creeps in. And, you know, increasingly as you get closer and closer to empty. But for people who are in the middle, right, maybe aren't all the way like grade A, like I'm going gung-ho for this dream, I think you can become a dreamer if you put reality in it. I think that's the misconception, right? Dreamers like, oh my gosh, you're just reaching for the stars, like you're not rooted in reality, like this is crazy, like you're just one of the other crazy people in the world. No. Entrepreneurs, by nature, are kind of like dreamers, because you see something others don't, and then you manifest little by little, from just a business plan to like your entity, to your direction, to your momentum that you build, right? So I think a dreamer can be a professional. I call it a professional dreamer, sorry. But I think a dreamer can go from amateur to professional by just taking it like that, serious like that, rather than just, oh yeah, this was fun, this is for kids, this is kid stuff. You know, I think that's where the line is, right? Once you realize that a dream is seriously like what everybody who we look up to has taken seriously, then you can step in the same light and follow the same footsteps to be a professional dreamer rather than just an amateur and see it for what it is.
That's what's so wild, is to take a moment, if you're listening to this, and think back. Your dreams in the past, you're living a lot of them right now. And there's like two sides to that coin. One is, oh my gosh, that's so amazing that if you take a look at your life now, it probably seems unrealistic or improbable compared to where you used to be, hopefully, if you're moving in the right direction.
Right.
But then the kind of flip side of that coin, and this is what I talk a lot about with my clients, talking about how money can't buy happiness. You've already achieved all the goals that you told yourself would make you happy. You've already checked the box and got the things that you said, once I get that, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And so sitting in that for a moment and realizing, oh crap, it's not something I can purchase. It's not something that's going to be easy, that's going to be given to me. I can't press the Staples Easy button or order it, DoorDash it on my phone.
Yeah.
The things that you want most, the happiness, the fulfillment, the meaning, those are byproducts that come as you go on the journey to achieve your dream. If you could just go out and purchase them, everyone who is rich and famous would be stoked. They'd be happy. They'd be fulfilled.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. But honestly, to build on what you're saying, I think a dream is a perspective, right? You're mentioning that you tell your clients all the time that it's like once you've acquired the things and you've got the stuff, right? If you still find yourself, in search of something, then clearly there's something missing. So how do you help them get that? But a dream, just like success, in my opinion, is a perspective. And that's an internal place that you sit within that gives you the confidence to look out in the world of, wow, I'm here, right? So example, public speaking. It's this huge fear a lot of people have, right? And it's funny, at the last event we just were at, a girl came up to me. She was like, Elijah, thank you so much. Your speech really meant a lot to me. I'm still working on it, but I'm not quite where I want to be yet, because sometimes when I speak, I draw a blank. As much as I've worked on it, as much as I've memorized and practiced my speech, when I see the people, I go blank, and then I get nervous, and then things go, south, right? But what I told her was, and what I think a lot of people can relate to on the same coin is, when you meet, for example, in this same analogy of public speaking, when you meet an audience of people and you're given the opportunity to speak, they're looking at you with this blank slate. What's this person going to say? How's it going to come out? How am I going to relate, identify, or whatever? But if you look at them with that same blank slate of trying to meet them where they're meeting you, you each meet at this blank. And then there's nerves, and then there's just uncertainty because what's going to happen, right? But why I say it's important to reach this perspective is because when you sit at this internal place, for me, it's an internal place of peace, and I can draw people into this energy. And that's why I'm always so confident, is because I don't necessarily source my belief in myself from the world I'm meeting. I just always draw people into the world I'm living within, right? So it's okay, if I can bring people in, then I don't necessarily rely on me meeting people where they're at. And it's a powerful way to live, because I don't have to manufacture confidence, right? I'm around people who like me. Of course I'm confident. That's artificial, because it's superficial. But for me to say, I already live within this internal place of peace and confidence and just happiness and ultimate self, that I can just bring you in, right? That's why a story is so powerful, because full-heartedly what the story is before you share it with someone else. But not knowing that means you're on the fly and on the whim, and it's just tough to bring people along.
I think you nailed it. I think that is exactly what I was articulating earlier about you and how you show up. It does feel like it's an invitation to come into the peace and the joy and the confidence. And I think that's why it shows up as such authentic confidence, and it's not manufactured. So well done. And I feel that. I really feel that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about it is, for anybody listening, it's not something you have to work up to. It's just something you have to release parts to access. Because there's like this thought of, oh, I'm in America, the land of the free, like get to be my whoever I want to be, right? Great. And then what ends up happening is we learn who other people in this limelight have become, and we try and, okay, I'm going to use this because they're closer than me. I'm going to use that because I identify with them. And next thing you know, you end up putting on this outfit that's so far from who your true self is, right? Like you had an outfit in your mind before you decided that this wasn't going to look good and that and the other. And then at least what happened for me is I realized, like, if I look good, or at least think I look good before stepping out into the world, I'm just going to stay with that. Because then I could just get lost in like, oh, this isn't going to get likes or compliments. And like, I'm the first like in my real life, right? Where it's so unpopular to do that. Like, imagine if you put something on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media, TikTok or whatever, and you're the first like it's so frowned upon. Like, what the heck? But in real life, think about how that translates, right? For us to wait for somebody else to like our stuff before we think about it is a lot of ways. There's a lot of or is a way a lot of people live, right? Like, can you validate this for me, right? Validation is such an empty hole.
That is hitting so hard that before we decide if we buy into ourselves, if we like ourselves, if we think this aspect of ourselves is good or enough, we have to ask someone else first, and they have to hit like.
Yes. In real life, compliment or just a look or whatever, like, I don't know, but you look, but then like, think about it, right? So, okay, funny sneak peek. My next book is called Look or Be Seen, and it talks about the dynamic between, imagine how many people you look at during the day, right? It's very uncommon to like just make clear eye contact with somebody and you're just like, oh, that's kind of weird.
It gets a little weird for
right?
Sure.
But you see people who are not seeing you and feel a certain type of way based on how they carry themselves. And so oftentimes we're looking at people who are just in such a clear walk, momentum, vibe. It's unquestioned that they think a certain way or live their lives a certain way. And unfortunately, without any words being exchanged, we derive a lot of meaning from those interactions or lack thereof, right? This person's got certain status because they're not looking at me or not looking at anybody, you go like the club scene, right? The people who are just like having the most fun, dancing, right? They might have a few drinks or whatever. They don't care, but then people are searching for that confidence to not care. You've never looked at them in their life. You don't know what's going on, but you source this ideology of like, oh, this is what's going on as fact, right? How unsupported this fact is all based on perception. And that's the master game, right? Perception game. How are we playing the perception game? Well, most of us lose the perception game by playing into others without playing into our own. So I play into mine first. Like, how do I perceive me? I mean, maybe I'm just a grisly version of that masterpiece self, but I'm him. I just need a haircut or something. But other than that, I think a lot of the game is really how we accept ourselves, because then we can welcome people into that acceptance.
That is such a powerful idea. And I want to go back to for a moment to what you shared around kind of picking different pieces from different people and trying it on. It's like you have socks from this guy, you're wearing this woman's hat, you have a cape from your favorite superhero, and the outfit looks weird. It's mismatched, it's ill-fitting, when instead you can just be like, what do I like? What looks good on me? And to be your own first like in real life. That is such a powerful idea.
I love that. I never put it together to go that far of like how mismatched you look with like the sock from one person, like the shoes from another, right? Like, but that's so accurate, because if you think about it, we go out into the world with all that. Oh, you like the sock on this guy, you like the hat on that lady, and you don't like it on me. You look like a clown, And the funny thing is we source a lot of the belief in ourselves based on that picture, how much work it took to put that picture together, right? It took me so many years to learn how to speak this speech. It took me so many years to learn how to walk this walk and talk this. It's just one of those like, oh man, I didn't trick you. Like, I didn't trick you into liking me because you liked everyone else. Like, well, did you trick yourself? Because you didn't even like that. You just thought we would. And there's a lack of authenticity to the core. And people, in my opinion, don't follow what you say or don't even really address it. They really speak and address how you are, right? We're human beings, not human doings. But we do all these things trying to get people to like us and forget that we're a human being, and who we are is the first glaring exclamation point before we hear anything anybody's got to say.
I remember learning about body language, tone, and words.
Okay.
People are always trying to get the words right, especially in a crucial conversation.
Yeah.
What words do I say? And the research, I'm just going to make up numbers that are close.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's like 13% of your impact and what gets communicated is your words.
Mm-hmm.
Like 40% is tone and energy, and the rest is body language. Like a huge percentage. You don't even have to get the words right. You just have to have the right body language. And it makes me think about, I just learned this morning, bullfighters. Like think Spain in a ring with a bull with the little red matador cape.
Yeah.
From the moment they're a small child, they train on how to walk, how to carry themselves, where to put their shoulders, where to look with their eyes. And it goes back to what you said, like you see someone on the street and just based on how they're carrying themselves, you can probably guess whether that person is their own first like, whether they believe in themselves or not.
Yeah. Wow. I like what you said because it alludes to how much work it takes to build this body language, right? As universal as it can be, it's also equally detrimental if we learn the wrong ways early on, right? Because we're around people who we look up to. But if you're learning from these people, then you're accumulating piece by piece and bit by bit from, oh my gosh, like I think I could do and I wish I could be. And next thing you know, you're far, far, far from who we are or from who our true selves are. And it's just so eye-opening because like I'm imagining the kid, right, who's trying to grow up and be a matador and like he's just walking around with the cape like in his like, you know, living room with his parents, like they've got the videos on. He sees himself so clearly in that vision that he's got or that goal that he's set. Conversely, so many of us in real life see a vision and compartmentalize it rather than appreciate the whole, right? That kid, he sees the whole, right? He's going to try and be this matador. There aren't too many moving parts in it. But our lives become so complex over the years as we grow that we're like, well, I don't want to be exactly like him or her, so I got to compartmentalize it because I want to be this piece of her with this piece and this piece. And it looks crazy. Like at the end of the day, just like the correlation to like the socks and the hat and the purse and the whatever else, right? But to appreciate the picture as a whole means that you would embrace or at least respect that body language of that whole rather than like the compartmentalizing.
I love this path we're going down, and we could talk for hours. You're definitely going to have to come back on the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
This is going to be part 1.
Yeah.
Where can people go to learn more about you and motivation concerts?
Flytimeless.com. So that's the first place for sure. Yeah. Fly Timeless is like all the handles from Instagram, TikTok, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm just now peeking my head out into the world because it's time. But now that I'm there, yeah, for sure.
And it's not a possibility. It's an expectation. It's pretty much already happened at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen it a million times in my head how it's going to go. And it's funny. I was just talking to my wife about this because I'm still a little nervous in some respects because I'm an artist, right? And I'm sensitive, as Erykah Badu said. But it's not about if. It's not about how. It's about why for me now. Because the why is there. It's not about why for me. It's about why for people. And I think the why for people is if you've been in this world of what if for so long that you don't even know what it is anymore and you'd like to put an end to it, right? If you have doubts that you're just like, I'm tired of these doubts ruining my life and my questioning my ways and my days, then get some fuel for your dreams because that's really going to put it all to shame, right? And then you're going to be able to walk in that life one day where you're like, I can't believe I actually questioned myself, right? I can't believe I actually thought less of myself, or I am the masterpiece that this world's created me to be. And yeah, just maybe it's time to get a full tank of belief. Get that at the motivation concert.
So I'm going to need you to unscrew this so that you can drop the mic.
Yeah, no. Right.
I'm just playing.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And if you're listening, just imagine that someday in the not so distant future, you're going to look back at going to this motivation concert and say, wow, I can't believe that maybe I almost didn't go. Maybe I almost didn't buy a ticket. Maybe I didn't show up, but I'm so thankful I did because now I am living that dream life. So I'm excited to be there. You said January 4th?
Yeah, January 4th. It's a Saturday. Perfect way to start your year. If you think about it, like, how are you going to start your 2025, right? You might have that party. You might go, okay, but then what's going to kickstart you? It's a perfect way.
Perfect way to kickstart you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Elijah. I appreciate you. I love that we got to tap into what is behind this humble confidence that feels real, that doesn't feel manufactured. And I love that we talked about it's simple. It's almost like removing all the noise, removing all the outfit suggestions from other people, and just focusing on you and really going inward to get that confidence, not going outward.
Yeah, which is a contradiction in today's society because it's acquire, right? Like get this, get that, buy this, buy that. Not too much release. And that's really what I experienced that works.
So good. Well, thanks for being here, man. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us today. As always, we love you guys. Hey, everybody. Gregory here. If you liked this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the Dare to Dream podcast on YouTube. You want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the amazing episodes we're going to be coming out with in the future. And if you liked this video specifically, please give it a like, leave a comment, let us know what you loved. Thank you so much for being here. We love you guys.